Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about complaints about programming jobs, so let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, what is your biggest complaint about your job as a software developer and team lead? Well, uh, I just got promoted yesterday as well. So, well, technically, I've been doing it's official now at the release. So now I'm an architect also. So I have a few roles now to fulfill. But if I had any complaints about the job that I do, I can put it at different levels. We can start by let's talk software developers, like just in general. The biggest complaint that I have as a software developer is that fundamentally you are always put in a position where a lot of your success and ability to do anything is completely based on your the relationship that you have with non-technical people and people who have no clue whatsoever how to make things work. In essence, it is a very difficult situation for software developers, I think, at the very least. I've always experienced that, to work as just in general. If you want to be something more than a code monkey, things get difficult, because the problem with being someone who is motivated in software or IT and so forth is that you're not surrounded all the time by people who are very talented and knowledgeable, because there are really no requirements on there are no requirements on any of the non-technical people in IT to know anything about software development whatsoever. They know nothing, literally nothing. Most of them don't know what code looks like. And the problem that you face as a software developer is that you might have ideas, you might see the code rot, you might see things that can be done in a better way, but nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares, because they can't actually understand what it is that you are trying to explain to them. It's sort of like being an insurance salesman or something like that, and trying to convince people that, you know what, it's good for you to have life insurance. If you're trying to pitch that to a 20-year-old something or a 15-year-old something, they're probably not going to listen to you. They don't give a shit, because they're going to live forever, right? And although you might know that that's not going to be true, they don't have that deep-rooted sense of truth about what it is that you are trying to say. And in many cases you work with other software developers who are not themselves all that talented. That's also very fun. It's really fun to be a software developer who is very talented, very good at what you do, and then have managers or people above you who are not, who are actually really shit at what they do. And it's sort of, well, you're basically. I can only imagine this poor people who work in the army under weak leadership. How many people have died knowing full well that the strategy or the decisions made by whoever is commanding them is dumb, really bad decisions, and walked knowingly to their death due to incompetence within the command chain. That is very, very true in software development as well. A lot of the time a software developer it gets really frustrated, because it's almost impossible to just get people to get on board with you. It becomes a political game every single time, and it's one of the reasons why I tell people that your social skills, your soft skills, they will matter more than you can possibly imagine. Which also brings the whole thing back to a really fun observation. Why would any say, which is the thing that I think becomes more and more of a problem, the software developers get to a point where they start to realize, why the fuck am I working this hard to convince people to do like a better job and like to really push things within the IT organization. When they don't care, they're still gonna pay me the same amount. And every time I talk to anybody, people stop listening, or like you're actually risking your position within the company by just trying to do the right thing. It's really, really often that I see software developers kind of get to the point where they kind of go, okay, fuck it, I'm just gonna do the things that feel comfortable because they're not gonna check my work anyway, so why the fuck would I care? And that, my friends, I see this all the time. All the time. The funny part is that the times that I see people, like the software developers who have the talent and the soft skills, they rule IT. Like they completely rule IT because they have this ability, which is the strength of any leader or anyone who's going to make something mass consumable, which is to connect the non-understanding or the ignorance of the people who are making the decisions to their world. They're able to show people, like to talk to people in the way that is necessary in order for them to understand why things are important, to go through and sort of, in a sense, mentor people in and make them realize the value in what they are doing. This brings us to the next level, right? That you're going to be like an architect or a team leader or something like that. Where now, the most frustrating part about my job is that if it's a team lead thing, it's always extremely difficult to, well, you're basically put in this position where you become so indispensable very quickly that you are forced, in essence, to take over the responsibilities of many, bridge pretty much the incompetence of everybody around you. And what I mean by bridging the incompetence, I mean that I have to this day never worked with product owners or anyone like that. I mean, even QAs or things like that, where they have the sort of necessary in-depth knowledge and experience and vision to actually drive things by themselves, usually. They really don't have this. Because as I've said before, guys, the requirements on, say, product owners and non-technical stakeholders it's nothing in comparison to what it is for the software developers. And they usually completely depend on having an almost like daily, if not more often, that go-to person who knows everything about technical matters, which sort of creates this weird situation where you, as the tech lead, you become the natural go-to, and that kind of comes with the territory. But it gets to the point where you have to, in many cases, do the thinking for other people, not just in a technical manner. Like guys I've worked with, product managers who can't even figure out what the next feature is going to be. Okay, what should we build next? Like the only power they have, the only skill they have, is to talk and facilitate meetings, and all the thinking is left to everybody else, which is the other part, which is very frustrating when you have a team of software developers who may not care so much. They may not be very innovative. They may not have a lot of ideas. They might just be sort of, as I like to call them, engine types of developers. In a team like that, it's almost impossible for you to get such a team to be the sort of driving force that the product owner, who is supposed to be the person who can do this, well, if they are not that person, well, then the team becomes very unproductive very quickly, and you're basically, it's sort of like being in charge of a broom closet. Nothing's really happening. You're just kind of just sitting around doing token work, because you can simply not get the people who are supposed to actually move things forward to do that, which, at least in my case, frustrates me to the point where I simply take charge immediately. Like, I just go, all right, fuck this, I'm going to start making some suggestions. And it took me a few years to realize, how can you do that without pissing people off? It's sort of the Inception thing, right? You cannot just tell people their business because arrogance and because of attitudes and like ego and all of that stuff. You have to convince people again how to do something. They're supposed to know it. It's their job. It's the whole reason they're here, and they can't. So you have to help them understand how to do it, which brings us to the architect level, which is exactly the thing I'm talking about, where it's very much like herding cats, a lot of it. Because you're basically in a situation where the difference in skill for people at this level is enormous. We have people who have 20 years of experience, some of them more, who don't know the first thing about modern day software development, working with 30 years or something similar like that. That's usually the level, the age that you're in when you're at this level, who have all the up-to-date knowledge, like they have all the hunger, they all have all of this sort of stuff, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're the best at what they do. And at an architect level, it gets really dangerous to have the wrong person, which brings us back to the whole. We bring us back full circle, where you usually work with people who are actually not that skilled at what they do within IT. And it's very, very difficult to make meaningful change happen, because most of what has to happen is that you have to figure out a way to move a herd of cats, basically. And the only way to move a herd of cats is the good old stick and carrot. And when you have no authority, usually the way you have to do it is that you have to take a look at what is it that you control within the organization, your team, your project, etc., etc. And you have to make that a standing monument to how to do things well. And then you have to promote it. And if you do that, you might be able to convince someone from somewhere else who you depend on in order to take this thing and make it a success, that this is the way to do things. And the amount of energy and work that has to go into that is enormous. So what I want you to take away from this is that the thing that is my biggest complaint about my job as a software developer / tech lead / architect / I don't know what more, is that usually as a software developer you're dealing with varying ranges of talent and skill. And it's very, very difficult to get any type of holistic solution in place. Getting a fix for a bug or improving some part of the code that you own, that's very, very easy. It's the easiest thing in the world because you can sit down and just do it yourself. What is very difficult is to make meaningful change happen in an organization or in a team or in a group of people where most of the problem is unfortunately the same problem that we have in society. The problem isn't that we can't solve the problem. The problem is that very, very smart people have to convince very, very stupid people that it's in everybody's interest that we do something about these issues that we have. Have a great day.